species could be defined with DNA. Because of that, there has to be a change in DNA for a species to evolve from one species to another. So, evolutionists have come up with a theory of mutation. After all, we've all seen pictures of deformed animals or Siamese twins. The theory was proposed that through a series of positive mutations caused a very fortunate evolutionary change. But mutational changes are almost always destructive. They do not advance species. Secondly, mutations are not inherited. Siamese twins don't run in families. Mutations are caused by external events and are entirely different than genetic tendencies. Let's just suppose that we could create the exact molecules and cell structure for life. And let's further suppose that we could put them all in the right place perfectly to form a human body. You know, we would have essentially the equivalent of a dead body. Take a dead body. Presumably, after something dies, we could then repair it with the right parts and bring it back to life. We can't. It's like the intuition example. Someone still needs to wind the watch. Maybe you've seen some of the wonderful, dramatic photographs from the Hubble Space Telescope, or seen, the COBE satellite passing Jupiter, or some of these wonderful photographs and things from the planet of Mars. So let's talk about cosmology, because we're really in an era. The Bible talks about a tremendous increase in information at the end of the age, and we are certainly, if you were to look at a curve of the amount of information we have right now, you will find that it's dramatically increased in a very, very short period of time. And perhaps nowhere as much as the area of cosmology, or the study of the heavens. Now, for 100 years, great intellects have been trying to use cosmology, or the study of the heavens, to actually prove that God doesn't exist. Well, now we know that this has really backfired. Starting in about the 1940s and again dramatically increasing, especially in the 1990s, science is confirming the Bible like never before. Not only does the proof of a creator exist, it actually matches exactly the account that's given in the Bible. First, let's consider some new facts. We know that the Hubble telescope, it was ironic in a way that when we had the first problems with the Hubble telescope, instead of looking at near things, because it basically had what we would call blurry vision or out of focus camera, but when you get out to very long focal lengths, it makes little difference. So what happened was we did some of the experiments of the edges of the universe before we did some of the closer in experiments, which required fixing the Hubble telescope. But what that did, in combination with a COBE space satellite or explorer, what it did was it helped us confirm, again, general relativity. It also gave us a view for the first time of the actual edges of the universe. In fact, some of the world's greatest scientists have when they heard this news, we had Ted Koppel talking about it on TV, and Stephen Hawking, and many, Carlos Frank, and many of the top scientists were saying, in effect, this is almost like looking at God, is the way it was positioned. Unfortunately, the world seemed to not get it in general. It didn't, even though at first it was front page news in some major newspapers across the world, on TV, the general public didn't respond the way I wish they did. Now, why didn't they respond? Well, one, these are concepts that are difficult to understand. even for many scientists. If you're not a physicist, and physics is one of the most detailed and maybe difficult areas of science, it would be very difficult to understand the concept of general relativity, for example. For example, who can conceive of the beginning of time and space? It's difficult, I think, for all of us in some way. Number two, it's hard to accept. If we really know that there was a beginning and a creator of the universe, many people don't want to believe that they might be accountable to something for eternity or something else, perhaps a God of the universe. So there's resistance not only from a difficult and an intellectual standpoint, there's also a resistance from an emotional standpoint. It's sometimes more convenient just not to believe. Science in the study of the planets has gone much further. We now know that there are billions of stars, and even billions of galaxies. We also suspect that there are billions of planets. We don't know this, and of course you've read a lot recently or heard a lot recently of discovery of planets. A lot of that has been proven untrue, but let's not argue that point. Let's assume maybe there are billions of planets. But do billions of planets mean that there's another Earth out there? The more you study Earth and the critical parameters necessary for life on Earth, the more you can easily become convinced that there is absolutely no chance or almost no chance of another Earth existing. Every single year in the past 10 years, we have learned many more criteria that are absolutely critical for life on Earth. We find finely tuned details about planet Earth that absolutely could not have occurred by mere chance. Some of them are obvious. The distance of the Earth from the Sun, obviously very important in terms of determining the heat. The time of the rotation of the Earth is important for things like gestation, again, for the amount of heat in certain parts of the planet. Some other factors are much less obvious. The ratio of oxygen to nitrogen is critical. The tilt of the planet Earth is critical. Things you never think about. The size of the moon is critical. The fact that we have one moon, not more than one moon, is critical. There are many, many little details that, again, would take a long time to go through. And most of these, in fact, we now know that the list extends to over 60 finely tuned criteria of planet Earth that are necessary for life. 60. And many of these, if you vary them by just a few percent, a single change in any one of these by a few percentage points would make it virtually impossible for life to exist on Earth. Again, if you run through the calculations, it's very easy to understand that the odds of another planet Earth are virtually zero. Now, science is going to continue to expand in this area, and it's going to be an exciting one to get into. But you'll find there are so many little things that you'll never think about that are vital to our survival. Things that you think of as being destructive, earthquakes, volcanoes. You think of these as being terribly destructive, but they play a very key role in life on Earth. Thunderstorms, the discharge of lightning, all of these are finely tuned in the balance. The amount of land in the northern hemisphere versus the amount of land in the southern hemisphere, the ratio of land to water, all of these play a vital part that we've learned through cosmology is a very important point to allowing for life on Earth. And it's, again, just another aspect of evidence of the miraculous and finely tuned design of a creator. You know, I frequently get asked by people, what are the chances of life on other planets? Now, we've talked about how highly improbable, virtually impossible it is that we would even have another planet like Earth. But, of course, we get the media bringing us attention of this Mars rock that came and supposedly had some evidence of life from Mars. I want to talk about that just for a second because I think it's important for people to understand. First of all, it would not be a surprise to astrophysicists to eventually